If you want to increase your potential to make more money, or if you're afraid of AI taking over your job or your job security, then this video is for you. In today's video, I'm going to share 6 skills that are relatively inexpensive or actually free to learn that I believe will increase your value and enable you to build more wealth in the long run. So I am very big on being a lifetime learner, and I feel strongly that this trait of mine is what has led me to what I consider a wealthy and successful life. Now, the reason I'm focusing on lower cost skills is I've found that a lot of my clients who are struggling with finances simply can't find it in their budget to invest big amounts of money in personal development at this moment in time. So that's why I just want to offer some free to low cost examples of ways you can still level up with very little money to start. Now, what they do require in terms of investment is a little bit of time. Now, let me quickly set some expectations. The skills that I'm going to cover in this video, they're not like getting a certification that you can add to your resume. They're not going to be things you can use directly to negotiate your pay at your job.
Like, hey, I got this new skill now, pay me more.
What I'm mostly covering are considered to be soft skills. I hope that what you gain from watching this video is an understanding that you are capable of developing new skills no matter your age and no matter what stage you are in your career. For those new here, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lissa and I'm a certified financial planner who helps women of color build wealth. Don't be offended if you're a man or if you are white or God forbid you are both, because I don't mind you being here and learning. I just want everyone to know that women of color have historically been left out of the conversation when it comes to leveling up financially and in life. Before I jump into those 6 relatively low-cost skills that I think you should learn, I quickly want to talk about a term, and that is the term human capital. Human capital is a funny concept, in my opinion, if you're not familiar with it. At its core, it is defined as our personal attributes, our skills, our knowledge. It's all of that packed together, viewed in terms of value or cost, but value of what we can bring to a company or what we can offer to society as a whole. It is what we are worth as individuals in a productive society. In other words, how do we add value to society? Think of it this way. Your human capital isn't just about your education, your degree, or your work experience. It's about everything that makes you valuable in the world of work and in life. Think your ability to solve problems, your ability to adapt to change, your ability to communicate effectively, be creative, and come up with new ideas, your ability to stay emotionally intelligent even if you're under pressure. So spoiler alert, we are going to dive into a few of those in the video, but I want to highlight what we're talking about here because I want you to know that everyone has human capital. You all bring something to the table. Some of you are very creative. Some of you are really funny. There are a lot of skills that you can have that you can actually use to your advantage when you are making money. And I specifically want to bring it up because the term human capital says the word human, which means there are some elements, many elements of your human capital that AI and technology will just never ever be able to take over. I think there is a very big human side of human capital that is irreplaceable and priceless. And if you keep this in mind, it could be your key to make sure that you always have value and that you'll always be able to use that value to build wealth in life. All right, without further ado, skill number 1, negotiation. Negotiation is defined as the art of reaching agreements through strategic discussion and compromise. So that sounds very simple, but believe it or not, negotiation skills are very important to have and to foster and to keep working on. Not only can you use it within a job and career or within your business, but for us women, we tend to negotiate less, which directly relates to less earning potential and less career advancement, aka less money. Now, to be clear, if you happen to be a woman who does not like to negotiate, for example, you get offered a new job, you're happy to take it, and you cringe at the thought of trying to negotiate your salary, I want you to know It's not your fault that that's the situation and why you might feel that way. I want you to get out of that thinking, but I want to remind you that culturally in the United States, even though the civil rights movement happened in the 1960s, women were still generally expected to be homemakers, to be at home while the man worked. So even over time, as years and decades went by, and women started getting more roles in the workplace, such as administrative work or receptionist jobs, from a cultural and societal perspective, women, for the most part, have always been conditioned to just be appreciative and grateful to be able to work. Like,
Finally, you're offering me a job. No matter what it is, I'm gonna take it. Yeah, I'm gonna sit there and answer phones, but I'm just gonna be happy to have it.
now I know that was 60-ish years ago, but believe me, the world moves slow with things like this. There are still remnants today. Yes, women can hold many positions today, but there's a big reason why most CEOs are white men. I just want you to know that you can negotiate and advance your career and advance your potential for building wealth, but you do have to be proactive about it. It's not just going to be handed to you, it's not going to be handed to us. And a big part of that is historically, we were never taught to negotiate or motivated to do it. In a nutshell, here are some reasons why it's important to improve your skills of negotiation. Negotiation can break barriers, it can help you advocate for yourself, it can help you secure mutually beneficial partnerships and deals. And all of these things, longer term, will help close the pay gap and the wealth gap. I don't think it's our responsibility to fix, but we're gonna do what we can regardless. So, if negotiating is something you know you should be doing more of, and not just at the flea market trying to get bargains from small business owners and artists, but actually negotiating with big corporations or in other places where it's going to be very impactful, here are 2 ways that you can get started for a relatively low cost. Number 1, read a book. If this concept of negotiation as a skill is totally new to you, then you can read a book like Never Split the Difference by Christopher Voss. If you have a masterclass subscription, I believe he has a course on there because I did it years ago and checked it out and it was really cool. And by the way, I'll put the links to all of these resources in the description, but reading a book is very relatively low cost and you can learn a lot from it. Number 2, you can also try free courses or videos. For example, I believe Yale has a free Introduction to Negotiation course that you can take on Coursera. I've never personally taken it, but if it's free, I don't see why you shouldn't check it out. So I'll drop the link to that in the description. So let me know how it goes if anyone decides to take it. All right, let's move on to a low-cost skill number 2 on the list, and that is problem solving. Problem solving sounds self-explanatory, but it is the ability to identify challenges, to analyze them, to develop effective solutions to overcome them. It is the ability to solve a problem. We all do this in everyday life, but it takes a whole different shape when you're doing it as part of an organization, as part of your job, as part of a business. In our personal lives, problem solving can look like figuring out how to balance your budget, fixing a broken toilet, or trying to get 2 of your friends to make up after a big falling out. This morning, actually, I don't know why my husband didn't wake me up, but apparently a pipe burst in the kitchen and it flooded the whole room and he didn't want to wake me up. So he dealt with it himself. He grabbed all the towels he could find around the house. He found the source of the water. He called the plumber. He did everything and all that right before he had to start working. So, he had to solve a problem on the fly. Now at work, when we're talking about problem solving as a skill that can benefit your career or your business, this relates to almost anything. If you can improve sales, if you can improve efficiency, if you can figure out how to finish any task or project on a tight timeline, that is problem solving. So the better your problem solving skills, the better you can navigate any challenge, not just to completion, but you can navigate these challenges with confidence, with creativity, and with little stress. I don't think that being a problem solver and always dealing with problems always has to equate to stress. Now, speaking of stress, I do know that problem solving can feel overwhelming. And I want you to know that is human. Our brains are wired to feel stress when we are faced with uncertainty, when we are in challenging high pressure environments, when there's not an obvious clear path forward. So it's normal. I just think the more you can hone this skill of being confident and creative when it's time to solve a problem, you'll be able to use that in the workplace because you will stand out from others, and it is a skill that's highly valued. And one thing I want you to know about the skill of problem solving, it's not that you always have to have all the answers from the start. In fact, no one realistically has all of the answers from the start. It's just the ability of being able to ask the right questions, the ability of being curious, of being resourceful, and also being open to different approaches. Because when it comes time to solving a problem, if you don't have the answers, you might have to collaborate with other people to find those answers. You know, all of those job listings that say that they want you to be able to thrive in a fast-paced, fast-changing environment, it's because they want you to be able to have problem-solving skills where you can adapt on the fly and continue working and continue your output even with things always changing at the last minute. So, if you believe problem solving is something that you can get better at very easily and you want to because it will help your job, here are some free or low-cost ways to improve this specific skill. Number one, you can learn and practice different frameworks. So for example, there are a lot of different strategic planning frameworks out there that you can look up, that you can use both in your job, in business, but also in your personal life. So one very, very simple one that you might have heard of in the past is a SWOT analysis, SWOT. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So whether it has to do with a specific task or an entire project, if you can define these buckets, these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, it can help you problem solve. So a SWOT analysis is one of many different frameworks out there, and for the most part, they're free to learn. The hard part is really remembering them and putting them into practice and getting that experience when you do need to solve a problem. But I think in the meantime, while there's no problems going on right now, you can just level up by learning some of these frameworks. Next time something comes up at your job, your manager doesn't know how to move something forward, you could be like, we should run it through this framework. And who knows, that could get you a raise or a promotion. I'm just saying. All right, number two, similar to the negotiation skill where I offered a book to read, there are also tons of books. So here's one that I researched and it seems to have good reviews, but it's on my list. I haven't read it yet. It's called Problem Solving 101. Again, if anyone wants to check it out and let me know if they learned anything from it, definitely share with me in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Moving on to skill number 3, storytelling. I really love this one because this is one I'm actively working on right now, trying to get better at. So storytelling is the ability to tell a story. It is the ability to communicate information in an engaging, relatable, and memorable way, using narratives or stories. So storytelling isn't just something that writers use or that speakers use or performers. I think it is a highly valued skill and it is considered a superpower in a lot of areas of life. Now, I think it's rare, unless you're getting like a writing job, that you're going to see it listed on a job description as we want a good storyteller. But I guarantee you, if you can bring this skill to your job, you will be able to have a big impact. You can use storytelling when you are pitching an idea at your job, when you're giving a presentation, when you're trying to get any point across to someone else. Storytelling is what makes your message stick. As humans, we are wired for stories because rather than just telling someone what to do or trying to explain why they should do something, if you share a story that portrays it better, it's going to captivate someone's attention, it's going to build an emotional connection, and it helps people retain information better. Quick story, my best performing YouTube video to date is a video that I'll link up here if you haven't checked it out yet. But I was actually surprised when it got so many views because I felt like I gave it the same energy as all of my other videos. I wasn't sure if it was the topic itself or did I say anything specific in the video that made it stand out. So because it did so well, I dug in and I looked at the analytics and I watched it over and over. And then finally, because I wanted to be resourceful, I took the script, I threw it into ChatGPT and I said, what stands out about this script? And one of the things it said was a differentiator from my other scripts is that I told more personal stories and I told more anecdotes. And those stories happen to be ones that really resonated with all of you, all of the people watching my video. So I do believe storytelling works. I'm still working on like when to throw in a story, when to not, how to share stories without just blabbering and going off on tangents, because I tend to do that. So it is a skill that I'm working on and I feel like everyone should work on as well. So storytelling isn't just about being creative. It's about being intentional. Think about job interviews. When someone asks you a question at a job interview, don't you think they'll remember you better if you're not just listing out all the skills you have, but also when you're sharing specific stories that both answer their questions, but that are also interesting? Think about the leaders, the celebrities, the speakers, the best people that you are drawn to, and think about why. A lot of times it's because they're good at telling stories. They're great at connecting with people, because when you can connect with an audience, you can inspire them, you can motivate them, you can build trust, and that trust allows you to drive change. You can get someone to take an action if there's trust between you two. Here is why I truly believe that storytelling is a very important skill to consider learning, and that is because it has potential to increase your value and of course, your wealth building potential. It is this very unique skill that bridges the gap between logic and emotion. In the business world, that can go a long way when you're working with colleagues, but also when you're working with clients. So if storytelling is something that you want to get better at, here are some low-cost ways to start and to learn more. Number one, you can learn from other storytellers. You can follow the TED Talks YouTube channel, which is a great channel to follow, and watch a bunch of the different speeches. Take notes while you watch them and take note of the stories they tell, whether it's in their opener or whether it's during the speech. Just concentrate on what the story is about, what's memorable about it, and also how it makes you feel. Then number two, another thing you can do to practice this skill is to actually just practice it. Practice creating your own personal anecdotes and your personal narratives. Rather than relying on your memory all the time, you should write down short versions of different stories you have in your life. Pick out stories that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And of course, make sure that each story has something interesting, something entertaining, or something that would inspire someone out of hearing that story. And number three, another low-cost way to improve storytelling is take a writing class. Usually you can find one at a community college or at other local places that might offer classes. All right, we have 3 down and 3 more skills to go. But real quick, a word from our sponsor, me. I'm just kidding. This video is not sponsored, but I do want to share an announcement. If you are ready to take your personal finances to the next level, then I have something for you. It is a free webinar designed for beginners. I'm going to walk you through foundational steps to improve your finances, and I'm going to help you feel more confident with your money. It's going to be more in-depth than what I cover in my YouTube videos, and it's a live webinar, so I'm going to be there to answer your questions. Check out the pinned comment to sign up for the next webinar. All right, back to your regularly scheduled programming, which is back to me. Moving on, skill number 4. Relationship building. Relationship building is defined as the process of developing meaningful and mutually beneficial connections with others, whether that is personally or professionally. And in this particular case, yeah, I think both work. Both personal relationships and professional relationships can help you with your overall financial goals. So at first glance, relationship building might seem like something that needs to happen naturally. Otherwise, it's going to feel fake. But I do believe that it is a skill that oftentimes requires intentional effort. Think about a time where maybe you were looking for a job, or you were worried about getting laid off, or some other career transition. In that moment, did you ever think to yourself, like, dang, I wish I had a stronger network. I wish I knew someone who worked at that company. I wish I knew someone who could help me out. Oftentimes in business relationships, these relationships, while you do want them to be genuine, they don't always happen by accident. They often require some effort. You got to go places to meet people. You got to have conversations to maintain those relationships. So the reason I'm calling this bullet point relationship building and not just networking is because sometimes I feel like the word networking is taken to be impersonal, whereas if you are building a relationship with someone, by default, it is something that is personal. So quick tip from me is I think you should focus on quality over quantity, because a few genuine connections can be way more impactful than having this large network of people that is so shallow that nobody wants to hear from you if you need to ask a favor because they hardly know you. Whereas if you don't have a lot of time to build relationships, you're better off just focusing on a few really strong, longer lasting ones. Here is why this skill is very crucial to have. It is because strong relationships open the doors to opportunities, to support systems, to collaboration, to so many things in your career and beyond. It's one of those things you don't know what you don't know. You're not going to know how a relationship can help you until it comes time for that relationship to help you. Now, I want to share with you a quick thing that I learned in my career. I didn't even know what these were, and I didn't know the difference for a long time, but I want to share with you the definition of a mentor and a sponsor. So there are two slightly different things, but you kind of want to have both of those on your side. So a mentor is someone who tends to provide you guidance and advice and support to help you grow in your personal life and your professional life. And a lot of times those conversations, if you have someone who's willing to mentor you, those conversations often focus on how you can build your skills better, like different paths you can take in your career. And oftentimes it's about overcoming a specific challenge that you're going through. Mentorship relationships can come in an organized, structured fashion, like through a mentorship program, or sometimes it's just meeting people and finding mentors and them taking on that role for you. Now, in contrast, a sponsor, this is what I didn't know before, was a sponsor is someone who actively advocates for you. So sometimes mentors do also act as sponsors, but not all the time. So a sponsor will actually use their influence to open doors for you. Like if they have the ability to recommend someone for a job and they remember you, they might recommend you for that job. So sponsors are more hands-on when it comes to connecting you to the right people, to finding you opportunities, and to actually making your career advance like directly. Not all sponsors do mentoring, so not all sponsors are gonna meet with you every couple months to make sure you are on track, but they still like you and they still want to help you. So when they can, they might connect you to the right people. I think you can actively build these relationships, and the best time to do it is when you're not getting laid off, when you do have a job, because it doesn't look like you're just going to them because you're in need of a new job. So now is the best time to kind of just start building relationships and eventually see if any of those relationships can also become mentors and sponsors. So for this particular skill, if you want to get better with building relationships, a very free, no-cost way to start is to literally just start. So I would focus on your existing network of friends and coworkers and just be intentional about building a genuine connection. Be intentional about not like disappearing for a whole year. Be intentional about keeping them updated with what you're working on and what you're doing in life. If you genuinely view people as human beings and you are curious about them and what they do in their life, it becomes very easy to build that connection and have them reciprocate. They'll then be very interested in what you're up to. Now, I will say that there are other practices you can use in your professional life if you want to build and maintain relationships. Sometimes these feel less organic, but they can still always lead to that path of good relationships. You can go to networking events. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn, ask for informational interviews. After you've met a person, like maybe you go to a conference and you meet people, you can set a reminder in your calendar to email them every 6 months and keep them updated with what's going on with you, or request a coffee chat with them. And if you're nervous about just jumping in and starting, I promise it will pay off. But another way you can kind of ease your way in is again by reading a book. So here's a popular one. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. All right, we have 2 low-cost skills to go on the list. Skill number 5, another favorite of mine that I am also currently working on, and that is extemporaneous speaking. So I think public speaking and speaking in general is a great skill to work on, but this that I'm talking about in this video is specifically extemporaneous speaking. So extemporaneous speaking is defined as the ability to speak clearly and confidently on a topic with little to no preparation. Basically, thinking on your feet. But we're not just talking about a regular conversation where you're shooting the with your friends. It is the ability to communicate ideas, to communicate stories, to communicate problems. Now, believe me, if I wasn't a communications major in college and if I didn't take a lot of public speaking, I would be in this same boat as a lot of people in which speaking and speaking off the cuff sound very, very terrifying. A lot of people hate speaking in front of people in general, let alone having to speak on the fly. But I promise, if you build the skill to speak extemporaneously, to be able to come up with meaningful ideas and the ability to communicate them on the fly, this is going to set you apart in your life, in your career, in your business, and definitely open up the doors for more wealth. So this skill, you can use it if you are in a team meeting at work, if you are giving a toast at a wedding or at a dinner, if you are answering unexpected questions that they throw at you in an interview. There's really no downside to practicing and getting better with this skill. So here are 2 ways that you can start building this skill that I have done myself in the past and I currently do, and I swear by these. But number 1, join a club like Toastmasters. If you're not familiar, Toastmasters is this international club that helps people become better communicators, better public speakers, better leaders. And there are many, many, many clubs across the globe. There are local chapters, so it's just finding the nearest one to you and checking out a meeting. For me, I'm currently part of one in Los Angeles that meets every Friday morning. But don't worry, some of them meet less often, some meet virtually, so there's a lot of options to build up this skill. And I believe it's relatively cheap to be a part of, and you get so much out of it. I think I pay about $84 twice a year. See, I don't even keep track because I feel like it's so worth it. And not only that, it's a fun part of my week. It's not something that I stress over. And over time, I've improved my speaking so much, including my extemporaneous speaking. So not to belabor the point on Toastmasters, but there's one part of it where you practice speaking, you take on roles, and you speak in the meeting. But there's also a portion of the meeting called Table Topics, which is a random question gets asked and then a person gets picked. So it would be like if someone was asking, tell me about the time you laughed the hardest in your life. Lissa, you're up. So then I would have to go up and speak for 1 to 2 minutes, so not very long, and on the fly come up with an answer to that question. No pressure whatsoever. Sometimes people can't think of something to say, so they'll just make something else up. It doesn't matter because the point is you build the habit of thinking on the fly, reducing your nerves, and just doing it. And you over time become more confident in speaking and clarifying your thoughts. All I'm saying is find a Toastmasters club if you got the time for it, because you will take a lot out of it. All right, and then number 2, another relatively low cost way to improve extemporaneous speaking is by taking an improv class. So I've taken improv multiple times in my life, once through Groundlings and once through UCB, which is the Upright Citizens Brigade. Your options for improv are largely going to depend on where you live and what is offered there. But if you can find a class nearby, I highly recommend improv to everyone. It sounds scary at first, but it will make you more confident at thinking on your feet, at being in front of people. Each time I've taken this class, not only did I become more confident at thinking on the spot and speaking on the spot, but I've also made friends out of these classes who I'm still friends with to this day. And that's because it is such a vulnerable place to be. You Get really close to people when you guys are overcoming your fears together about speaking. It's not just for actors, not just for speakers. Anyone can improve their skills by taking a class like improv. All right, we are at the end of the list. Skill number 6 is writing. Yeah, kind of anticlimactic. So writing is self-explanatory, but just to be clear here, this is the ability to communicate ideas effectively through written word. So strong writing skills are very underrated, and I think that even though people think AI is going to take over a lot of writing jobs and writing skills, I don't believe so. I think there is still a human element. Remember how I was talking about human capital earlier in the video? I still think there's a human element that makes for the best writing. So think about when you're drafting emails, if you're writing a report, or even posting on social media, you can tell when something is kind of written in a robotic way versus in a very unique, creative, influential way. That's why I think good writing is a very valuable skill despite what AI can do these days. For example, I don't think ChatGPT has once ever made me laugh out loud because it told a funny creative joke. Whereas if you're a human and you can communicate something very funny through writing something funny, like a funny comment on social media, you are ahead of the game, and it's going to take a really, really long time for AI to ever replace that. So writing, it is important because it is one of the most universal forms of communication. It is used in every job. Good writing can help you land jobs. If you can write a good resume or a good cover letter, good writing can influence decisions. If you can write a good email with good bullet points and phrase it in the right way for the right audience, you can get a lot of work done. And of course, your verbal skills matter too, but if you can improve both of those, you are really going to make sure that you have job security into the future. So here are 2 low-cost ways to improve this skill. Number 1, you can write regularly. Start a journal, write some blog posts. You can even write song lyrics. You can write poems, whatever you want. Just get in the habit of moving thoughts from your head to a pen and paper or onto your computer. Just practice that skill of taking all your thoughts that are all over the place and making them digestible. And number 2, you can take a writing class. I already mentioned that earlier, but I am big on lifelong learning. So any class that you can commit to taking for a few months can go such a long way. And before you come at me at the fact that it costs money to do these types of things, it is an investment in yourself. It is personal development, and it is so much cheaper than a college education, okay? So there's the list. To recap, I feel really strongly that personal development and professional development are things that you shouldn't forget about in your career and in your life, because whether you believe it or not, increasing your human capital will go noticed. You will stand out from others. You'll be able to negotiate a higher salary. You'll be able to pitch strong ideas that people actually listen to because you're good at storytelling and speaking on the fly. You'll be able to do so many things when you build up these skills. All right, I hope you all enjoyed this video and got something out of it. Until next time, peace out.